Well, good morning, and I just have a question for you. Can you solve this in 1 minute? Let's go. So, if you can solve this in 1 minute, great. Hold your answers till the end of the timer. If you're not sure where to start, well, then just hold on. And then when the timer expires, you can put a question mark down. But I'm just kind of curious. Can you solve this in less than a minute? Now 30 seconds. No stress, no strain. Okay? The reason why I come on here to do timed assessments is it's almost time for you to take your test. And you're not going to have 5 minutes to take for one problem. So I would love to know, can you solve this in less than a minute? Okay? Once the timer expires, go ahead and try to put your answer inside the chat. Okay? So if you have an answer, go ahead and put it into the comments. If you're still working on it, okay, because you probably came here a little bit later, which is not a problem. But what do you have for your answer? Okay, thank you so much for coming in and joining in. For some reason, my TikTok took a lot longer for me to come on. I don't know why, but we'll talk about that later. All right, so thank you so much for stopping in. But can you answer this? Okay. So, taking a look, we have an inequality. So when we're taking a look here, we're trying to, just like regular equations, try to solve for the x, basically to isolate your x. So you could treat this like an equal sign, but in fact it is an inequality sign, which is less than or equal to. So in order for me to get x by itself, I need to move this positive 7 over to the opposite side. In order for me to do that, I need to do its inverse. So the inverse of positive 7 is negative 7. Okay? So positive 7 and negative 7, they tend to cancel out to give me 0. So now we have our negative 3x is coming down. We do not have to write down the 0 that we got from the 7 and negative 7 because we don't need that as a placeholder since we still have the negative 3x. Now, bringing down the less than or equal to, borrowing from the 2 to make that into a 1, to make that 2 into a 12, so you have 15. So now, we want to isolate our x. So in order for us to get x by itself, we have to do the inverse. So the inverse of negative 3x, which means negative 3 times x, which is division. So we have negative 3 and negative 3. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 will give us our 1x, or just simply x. And we have 15 divided by negative 3, which gives us a negative 5. Now this is the part where a lot of people generally get some things wrong, okay? When we subtracted on both sides, notice the inequality sign did not change. But this time, right here, we divided by a negative 3. So anytime we divide by a negative number, the inequality sign has to change direction. Not when we're subtracting, just when we're multiplying or dividing. So instead of a less than or equal to sign, it's going to be a greater than or equal to sign. Okay? Taranja, thank you. All right. So That's one thing you have to understand about inequalities. You can solve it the same way as you would for an equal sign. But the only thing is, when you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number, you have to change the direction of the sign in order for you to get the true answer, which is x is greater than or equal to -5. So, there may be times they might ask you to graph it. So let me do this as a little bonus. So for your -5, they're going to do this one of two ways. So if we're talking about x is greater than -5, when you're looking at the graph, because sometimes they might show it as a graph, they're going to represent it one of two ways. Since there is an equal to, so this means greater than or equal to, you are going either to positive infinity or negative infinity. When it's greater than, that means you're going more. So you're going more towards positive infinity. But what happens on the endpoint? Since it's including, since it says greater than or equal to, that means it's including the -5. Okay? So, why did your symbol reverse? Because, Chris, anytime you multiply or divide by a negative number, that inequality sign changes direction. Okay? So that's going to be the key part. So when you graph it, since it's greater than or equal to, that's what this sign says. That means you're including that point of -5. So you're saying that I'm going to start at -5 and go all the way up to positive infinity. So anything from -5 up is going to make our original equation a true statement. That's what inequalities do. Okay? That's what inequalities do. Why wouldn't it be +5 since the 15 is bigger? Because you're subtracting. You're trying to subtract. When you are dividing and the signs are opposite, your answer is always going to be negative. Okay? You're thinking of when you're adding them together. The sign, you always take the sign of the bigger number. Okay? No problem. All right? Now, this is one way that you would see it, either with a closed dot and going all the way to positive infinity, or you might see it like this. Same thing, you're going all the way to positive infinity. You might see a bracket opening into the direction it should go into. GED, high school equivalencies, you're probably going to see this. Algebra 2 people, Accuplacer, you're going to see this or this. Okay? T's test, you'll probably see this more so. ASVAB, you're probably going to see this more so. Okay? So notice there's going to be different problems. Alright, let's try another one. Unless you have any more questions, because there's good questions. Alright? Alright, so let's try. And I gotta remember to take these off. Alright, so let's see. Can you do this in 1 minute? That's okay. Okay, so hold your answers until the very end. Give some people time to process, because remember, everyone does not think exactly the same. Okay, so hold your answers until the very end. Okay. Mojo Mike, hilarious. Alright, hold your answers until the end. You got 10 questions. Let's try this again. Hold your answers until the end. Thank you. Woo! See? Instant gratification. But we gotta learn control. Alright? So go ahead, put your answers in. Alright, so I can give you some recognition. Alright. So we have, is that Aspasia? Aspasia? Okay. Joe. Okay. Mike, I see you. TMK, I see you. Okay. Dyward, I see you. Beta, I see you. Brenda, I see you. Tekon, I see you. HA or Heyo. Heyo, I see you. Demba, I see you. John, I see you. XCat, I see you. Is that Elf? I see you. D, I see you. Okay. Tarand, I see you. Alright, so let's take a look. First thing that jumped at me is that the bases are all exactly the same. When you see the same base, you don't need to multiply 4 to itself 5 times or take the negative second power of 4, and you don't have to do all that. What we could do is the properties of exponents. So notice that they all have the same base. Let's take our numerator first. When you're multiplying, you add the exponents. So it's really going to be the same base of 4, but you're going to add the exponents. The denominator can stay exactly the same. So now when you're adding the exponents, you have a positive 5 plus a negative 2. So that will give me 4 to the third power. Rewriting my 4 to the second power. Now there's another rule. Now we're dividing. When we are dividing, guess what we're doing with the exponents? Hey, we're subtracting. So keeping that base of 4, then you got your 3 minus the 2. And 3 minus 2, that gives me 1. So 4 to the first power is the same exact way of saying 4. Okay? So this is learning the rules or the properties of exponents. When you're multiplying, you add the exponents. So that's why 5 plus negative 2 gives me a 3. When I divide, I subtract the exponents. 3 minus 2, that gives me 1. And anything raised to the first power is itself. Okay, so that's really learning the rules or the properties of exponents. Okay, so that's what it was really hitting hard on. So you don't have to find what 4 to the third power is, which is going to be a lovely number. Okay, then you don't have to, let me move that 4 to the second power down here in the denominator, because that's another way you can do it. So like if you wanted to, anytime you have a negative exponent, you have to move it down into the denominator to make it positive. So that would have been 4 to the fifth over 4 to the second times 4 to the second. So with that, you have your 4 to the fifth over, you're multiplying, so you add the exponents. So that will give us 4 to the 4th power. Then you can divide. When you divide, you're going to subtract the exponents. So 5 minus 4, that still gives me 1. So 4 to the 1st power is exactly the same as saying 4. So this is just another way of doing it. Okay? Alright? So really understanding those rules of exponents. Alright, so let's try this one. Can you solve this in 1 minute? Terry Jones. Okay. Alright. So wait until the time expires before you put your answer in the chat. Even if you're not sure where to start, how to set it up, then you would put a question mark in the chat when the time expires. Okay? Okay, G baby, put your answer in the chat. Joan, here we go. Let's go. Basic instruction. Wait until the time expires. Okay. Alright. Now, put your answers in. Okay. Faith Love, thank you. Or Fatal Love, thank you for your honesty. Mimi, thank you for your honesty. Okay. G baby, you're just being ridiculous. Okay. Refreshing, thank you for your honesty. Okay. Nolan, thank you. I see you. Daniel, I see you. Flirtatious Kitty, welcome back. I see you. Okay. Alright. Any others? Okay. So, let's take a look. First thing, I'm always going back to the question. So what score does a student need on the 5th exam to achieve an average of 86? When I see the word average, just average, not average rate, just average, that means I'm thinking of mean. Okay? When I'm finding my mean, and this is what a lot of people get generally mixed up, mean is basically you're adding your numbers and dividing by how many numbers are in that data set. So they're saying the student scored an 82, an 88, 91, and 79. Right? So that's for 4 exams. But we want to know what they need for the 5th exam. So we have to add that exam. Since we don't know what it is, I'm using X. So now, in order for me to find the average, which this is going to equal 86, I need to divide by how many possible terms or tests I'm looking at, which is not 4, but 5. Okay? So this is when we're finding our average. So we know that 82 plus 88 is 170. We have 91 plus 79 is 170. So if I look at 170 plus 170, I'm looking at 340. So right now, the combination of those 4 exams is going to be 340. So I have 340 plus x over 5 is equal to 86. Okay, hello my faith, how are you? Now, we want to solve for x. So we need to isolate. So that means I need to get it out of this fraction form. And how do I do that? This is division. Yes, there's addition in the numerator, but this whole thing here is representing division because it's a fraction. The inverse of division is multiplication. So what I'm actually doing is I'm going to multiply 5 on both sides of the equal sign. So now I have 5 divided by 5. That gives me 1. So 1 times anything is going to be itself. So I can just bring down the 340 plus x is equal. So we have 4 plus 3, that's 430. Okay. So now we need to get x by itself. There we go. So we need to subtract the 340. So we have our x equals, so if we borrow from the 4, so that makes it into a 3, then we make that 4 into a 13, so that should give us 90. So what did that person need for the next test? Is a 90. Now for all my current students, this is exactly what you can do when you're trying to find your average. When you need to take a test, you're like, oh, what do I need for the next test? But again, some exams are what's called weighted. So that's a little bit different terms. Okay? Alright. Well, just calm down with the language. And I'm not sure what you did to get 30, but did you see how we got 90? Okay. So this is what you do. Anytime they say the word average, you're looking at the mean. And the mean is you add all your numbers up and you divide by the number of numbers. So they gave us 4 exam scores, but they want us to know what the 5th score is. So since we don't know what the 5th score is, that was representing our unknown. That's representing our x. Alright? So then they're saying that the average is, they're trying to shoot for an 86. So what they'll do, they add those 4 scores up. That's where the 340 came from. And then we add the unknown test score, that 5th test. That means we are dividing by 5 because we're looking at 5 exams. Multiply both sides by 5. Okay, then we subtract our 340, and that's how we get our 90. Alright? Okay, couple more. Let's see how you can do with this one. Okay. Can you solve this in a minute? And hold your answers until the end of the timer. So hold your answers until the end of the timer. Okay. Alright, you do the same thing, Tehran. Don't give up. Okay? Don't give up. Keep pushing. Alright? So, put your answers in. And if you're not sure where to start, put a question mark. This is why I'm here. Okay? I'm not looking for perfection. If you know it, that's awesome. If you're struggling with it, that's why I'm here. So if you know where to start, awesome. Give me your answer. If you're not sure, put a question mark. Okay? Put a question mark. Alright, so let's see. Okay, so we have Amy, we have Brandy, we have Janice, we have Nolan, we have Amy, I see you. Dream, thank you so much for your honesty. Tyler, we have Dawn. Okay, Jay, they saw the first person's answer and they think that's what it is. But we're going to talk about it. Refreshing, okay. Stacy, we have Chocolate. Okay, I am the second. I see you. Tay, I see you. Okay, right. So, John, I see you. My Faith, thank you for your honesty. Okay, Maria, thank you for your honesty. Maurice, okay, thank you. Lucky, thank you. Tyler, thank you. Okay, my pistol from another. All right. So, let's take a look. Okay, so let's take a look. So here's the thing, before we all start arguing. First off, taking a look in between my two ratios, aka my fractions, I notice there's a subtraction sign. This is not an equal sign, so when there's an equal sign, that's when you will cross multiply. Okay, we don't have that. They have a minus sign there. It's not like it's multiplication when you can cross simplify. Because I noticed a lot of you probably did, oh, let me reduce 2 and 8. This will be a 1 and this will be a 4. And then you multiply it together. No. When you're subtracting or adding, the key thing is you need to have a common denominator. Alright? So, looking at the 5 times table and looking at the 8 times table, what number do they both have in common? Okay, so if anything, we could break it down, or we can just multiply these two. I think someone mentioned that. Yes, it's going to be 40. So we are basically changing the 8 and the 5 into 40. Because other than 1, the only other number they both have in common is 40. So in order for me to change this 8 to a 40, I had to multiply by 5. And whatever I do in the denominator, I have to do in its numerator. Okay? So that means my new denominator is going to be 40, but my new numerator is going to be 35. Because 5 times 7 gives me 35. Okay? Yep. So now, to do your 5, to change this 5 to a 40, it'll give you 8. So 5 times 8 gives me 40. Whatever I do in the denominator, I must do in the numerator. So 2 times 8 gives me 16. Okay? So now, when you're subtracting, you're keeping your denominator. Okay? 2 times 8 is not 19. But I think I know what you're talking about. So, sorry. So now we have our 35 minus our 16 This is where people are getting the 19 from. And we're keeping the denominator, which gives us our 40. So now I always take a look. Is there a number that 19 and 40 have in common if I ever need to reduce? Because sometimes when you multiply your denominators to figure out what your common denominator is, sometimes it's a little too high. So you might have to reduce anything. Well, if I look at 19, which is a prime number, and 40, which is even, the only number that they have in common is 1. Right? So, if you try to divide anything by 1, it's just going to give you your original answer. Okay? So, no, it's not going to be 2/5. Okay? Alright? So, 19 is a prime number. There you go, Nolan. Alright? Are we feeling better about it? Okay? So, when you are subtracting, you need to have a common denominator. So, if you want, you can multiply your denominators. Alright? Sometimes you might only have to multiply just one of the fractions instead of both. Okay? Alright? So, let me move this one out the way. And let's see if you can do the next one in 1 minute. As soon as I pick it up. There we go. Okay? So, hold your answer until the end of the time period. Okay? So try to do that. You understood that? Good. Alright. So can you find what we're looking for? What is the slope of the line that passes through point -3,4 and 5 and -2? Hold your answers until the end of the timer. Okay? I know it's hard. We live in a world of instant gratification, but you gotta learn control. Gotta learn control. Because there is a method to this lovely madness. Okay, 10 seconds. And if you're not sure where to start, remember you also can use the question mark. Alright, go ahead and show me your answers. What did you get? What did you get? Alright, Dream, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. Okay, tells me a little bit. Alright, refreshing, thank you so much for your honesty. My Faith, thank you so much for your honesty. Okay, alright, Chocolate 8, I see you. Is it J Squared, I see you. Okay, I Heart, I see you. 58, lost my skills. Do you come on at certain times? Yes, I normally come on at 7:45, but for some reason the app was taking forever this morning to load up. So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be here. Alright, Zare, I see you. Forgot some of the slow problem. Not a problem, Maria, I got you. Alright, oh Frizz, am I late? Yes, we got like basically the last question. But that's okay. So Dawn, don't forget, we also have the replays. So let's take a look. Now, slope, as some people will remember, is your, some people like to say, rise over run. But it's also known as the difference or the change of your y's over the change of your x's. So, where I'm from, we read from left to right. So since this is the first point that I see, and points are normally x, y, and since this is the first point I see, this is going to be my first x and my first y. This is the second point that I see. Again, it's xy. But since this is the second point, I would say this would be my second x and this will be my second y. So the way that you could solve it, you can solve it one of two ways. And I hate to say it, it's also depending on where you're from. Because if you read it from basically right to left, you can do it the traditional way of finding slope. Slope is represented by the letter M. And a lot of us know it as y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So if I plug it in, I'm just basically plugging in my coordinates into my formula. So it's the difference of my y's. So for this one, my y sub 2 is a negative 2 minus my y sub 1, which is a 4. Okay. So for my denominator, my x sub 2, so the x in the second point is 5, minus the x in the first point is negative 3. This is where a lot of people go wrong. When you substitute for the x, you're not replacing the minus sign. You're still subtracting those two terms. So you're only replacing for the x sub 1. That's where that negative 3 is. And anytime I substitute a negative in, I always put parentheses around. Okay? So Algebra 1, Algebra 2, but also test prep. If you're doing high school equivalency, GED, ASVAB, Accuplacer, that's what this math is for. Okay? All right. Okay. So, now, there you go. Thank you, lucky wife. All right. Why don't you do it for the negative 2? Because the negative 2 is in front. It's not going to affect my minus sign because this minus sign is now acting as a 4, is acting towards a 4. So now this is no longer minus 4. This is a plus negative 4. So now you have negative 2 plus a negative 4. That gives us a negative 6. But this is what happens when we have a negative times a negative. This is going to change. So when you're minusing a negative, it turns positive. So this in your denominator is actually going to be 5 plus 3. This has a bigger effect than what's happening in the numerator. That's why I put the parenthesis with the negative 3. Yes, and this is going to be 8. Okay. Okay, Yuli, I already answered that. I said this is our Algebra 1, as well as getting people ready for the GED, the ASVAB, and the Accuplacer. Plus, when you signed in, there was a little paragraph that said that this is going to be for 25 plus, for people that are trying to get themselves ready for GED, ASVAB, Accuplacer, TEAS test, HESI test, Accuplacer. Okay? So we're hitting on a lot of the concepts that trips a lot of people up. So now, with the ratio, we have negative 6 over 8. 6 and 8 are both even numbers, but they're not at its lowest term. So what do they have in common? Since they're both even, they're both divisible by 2. They're not both divisible by 4. The 8 is divisible by 4, but not 6 evenly. So that's why we're using 2. So if I say negative 6 divided by 2, that will give me a negative 3. And if I say 8 divided by 2, that will give me a positive 4. So your slope is going to be a negative slope. Okay, -3 over 4. Okay, hey, Big Al and Michelle, thank you. Now, that's one way of doing it. So another way will be, let me switch it up. Instead of going y2 minus y1, and since, again, I'm used to reading from left to right, you can find the same thing by doing y1 minus y2 and your x1 minus x2. Okay, so your y1 is 4, so you have 4 minus a -2. And then you have a -3 minus 5. Okay, so when you minus a negative, just like we said earlier, it's going to change to a positive. So 4 plus 2, that will give me a positive 6. Then -3 plus -5. Do you hear how I'm saying it? -3 plus -5. When both numbers are negative, you're going to keep the sign and then add them together. So now you have 6 over -8. Again, if we can reduce it, which we are going to reduce it by 2. 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. And -8 divided by 2 gives me a -4. Okay? Two different ways, same result. Now here's the thing about negative slopes. Only one, either the numerator or the denominator, needs to be negative. Okay? Not both, one or the other, in order for it to be classified as a negative slope. Alright? Hello, Lou. Okay? So, it really, I like to say, if you're from a country that reads from left to right, this doesn't lose the confusion, because this is what happens. When you do it the other way from right to left, we do well with the y's. But then for some reason, our brain doesn't switch, does some kind of crazy switch for us to do the x's opposite. I don't know why, but it always happens, okay? So that's why sometimes I tell my students, well then, as long as you know that the y's are in the top, are in the numerator, and the x's are in the denominator, as long as you keep the same rhythm, okay? And sometimes I had to teach my kids rhythm, which is funny, okay? As long as you had to keep the same rhythm, you're going to get the same answer, okay? You get the change of y's over the change of x's. And this triangle means delta. Delta meaning change, difference. Okay? For all your sorority sisters out there. Okay? Alright. So, I want to throw a bonus and then we're officially done. Okay? If you feel that you need more practice with questions that I've done today, which is the fractions and basically reducing fractions, that's what we did with the slope, finding your slope, looking at exponents, well, trust me, if you go to the link in my bio, I have what's called Algebra at Your Pace. So it's a set of books, a 10-set series that will break down a lot of these concepts. So it's not just a regular workbook. You actually get video recordings for each section, and you do the video recordings and the extra practice, you're going to be able to pick things up a lot quicker. So it's me basically being your tutor for a low, low price. Alright? So if you ever take a look, go ahead and take a look at the link in there. It's my Stan store, Math by Audrey, and there's also a freebie in there. Okay? Alright, so this one, I am going to keep the timer. So again, I want to see if you can do this in 1 minute. Okay? Bonus! Okay? Can you find the equation of this line? Okay, you need help too? Yes. Where did the 2 at the end come from? The 2 came from us reducing, Kayla. So it was -6/8. So since 6 and 8 are both even numbers, that means they're divisible by 2. So in order for me to have that 6/8 reduced, that means I had to divide both the numerator and the denominator by 2. Okay, so by reducing it, by dividing it by 2, I was reducing the fraction. There we go, if I could speak. All right, good. You're so welcome. All right. Okay. All right. Let me see your answers. Let me see your answers. So I want the equation of the line. I'm not sure why I'm getting just numbers. I want to see the equation of this line. Okay, so John, I see you. Michelle, I see you. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you so much for the follows, everyone. Chief Ladybug, I love that. All right. Okay. Is it Cobrio? Cobrio? All right. Brandy? Yes. There you go, Brandy. Y equals mx plus b. Anytime someone says the equation of the line, you're always using this format. Y equals mx plus b. So anytime they're mentioning equation, I should have an equal sign. Okay? Yes, Michelle. There we go. So, in order for us to get the equation of the line, okay, we need 2 things. We need our m, which is representing our slope, and we just talked about slope. Rise over run, right? Change of y over change of x. And now we also need our b. Our b is called the y-intercept. So some places have it as a c, some places has it as a b. But the y-intercept, the meaning of the y-intercept is still the same. It is your starting point. So anytime you see any kind of graphing, your y-intercept is always going to be your starting point, where you start on the y-axis. Now, the y-axis goes up and down. The x-axis goes left to right. Okay? So, where is this line crossing the y-axis? Where is it crossing? It's all being counted by ones. Where is it crossing? Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, everything is crossing by ones. So you're okay. So user 21, I see you. Thank you. Brandy, I see you. Thank you. Big Al, I see you. Thank you. Hopefully you're doing well. Spotify, I see you. Take a look again. They're all counting by ones. Is that Gerp? Is saying you? Okay. Alim, I see you. But take a look at how it's counting. They're all counting by ones. Eve, I see you. There you go, Alim. Nice. All right. So, here's my y-axis. Axes are just basically 2 number lines crossing at the zeros. Okay? The zeros is called your origin. But where this line is crossing is right here at -2. So your y-intercept, we know, is now -2. So my y-intercept is crossing here at -2. Now the other thing we need is the slope. So we have this other point, 3, 4. So how can I find the slope from a graph? Remember what we said slope was. It is rise over run. So why not take those steps? Why, how is it -2? Because this is 0, this is -1, this is -2. Going down are the negative numbers, going up are the positive numbers, and everything is being counted by 1. Going to the right is positive numbers, going all the way to positive infinity, and to the left is negative numbers, going all the way to negative infinity. Okay? Yes? So slope is rise over run. So like what Brandy is saying, we're going to start here at our y-intercept. And we're going to count here to this point 3, 4. So if I start, I'm going to count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to go up 6 and then over 1, 2, 3. So my rise was 6 and my run to the right is 3. So going up was positive, so that was a positive 6. Going to right is positive, so that's a positive 3. So my rise over my run is 6 over 3. But 6 over 3 is the same as saying 6 divided by 3. So this can be reduced even further. Okay? Alright? This can be reduced either further. So 6 over 3 can simply be 2 over 1. And 2 over 1 is just 2. Anything divisible by 1 is itself. Okay? Right? Okay? Yep, we did not need the slope-intercept form. Okay? So, when you're trying to get it out of the graph, your starting point is going to be your y-intercept, and then you're counting to get to this point. It's almost like you're giving someone directions. So that means you're not starting your 1 at the point. No. You're counting with the movement. So this is 1 street block, 2 street blocks, 3, 4, 5, 6 street blocks. Then you're going to turn right and go 1, 2, 3 more street blocks to get to the hip and happening party. Okay? Alright? So now we found our slope. Our slope is 2. So let's put this all together. Because remember, we're trying to do y equals mx plus b. My m is 2. My b is -2. This is your equation of the line. You started at -2, boom, and we found our slope to be 2 over 1. Boom. Okay? Yep. So sometimes, especially if they give you the graph, you're basically counting. Okay? They're basically counting. Making it easy, that's what I do, pretty. That's what I do. I try to make math simple. Okay? You're going to get the same answer. We're not going to have to do all kinds of crazy dissertations. Now, the way that some teachers teach it, they like to go into full detail, but I'm teaching it as someone is trying to prepare for an assessment. Now, when the assessment time comes, they are not looking at your work. They're not like, oh, give me a copy of your work. I want to see what your work is. SAT is not going to do that. ACT is not going to do that. GED is not going to do that. ASVAB is not going to do that. They're going to look, did you get the right answer? Did you pick A, B, C, or D? They don't care about anything else. They don't care how you got it. Did you pick the right answer? Okay? Now, when you're in class, you're going to have to show your work. Okay? You're going to have to show your work. And your teacher will show you how the work is. Because when they're the teacher of record, you don't want to screw up your grade. Okay? All right. Do I go live daily? Yes. Starts algebra this year in 8th grade? Awesome. Yes. I do go live each and every day. Sorry I was late today because TikTok was taking its sweet time trying to get up onto the app. And I'm like, I even came early. It's crazy. Okay, but let me show you where you can go. If you did come a little bit later, okay, if you go to, I know it's going to be blurry for a second. Just give me a moment. Okay, if you go to my profile, all right, and it has Stand Store Math by Audrey. Okay, I'm just rebranding. I used to be ACG Math Tutoring. So you will see my Stand Store. So here's a couple of things that I would love to show you. Okay, one thing, the very first thing is a free math checkup. So what was it, Miss Kayla? Now, if you want, your child can kind of take a look at some of the things. Okay, do the free math checkup. Do some of the problems. If she's like, I think I get it, I might need a little help with it, take a picture of what she did and send it to me so I can take a look at it. I'm so shocked that people are not doing this. I think people think I'm full of it, and I'm not. I may be full of a lot of stuff, but when it comes to math, like, I know the struggle. I used to struggle when I was a kid. Fractions, hell no. Word problems, seriously? No. Why? Why are there letters in math? Like, didn't really get it. But then I started practicing and I started to see a pattern and I saw what was working and what wasn't working. And because of that, I took that desire to want to make it work and I started getting a little bit better in math. And then, I don't know, God said, I need for you to be a math teacher. And I'm like, you're hilarious. God is really hilarious. So this is where you can actually do some of the free checkups. And on top of it, if you want to, if you have some interest in tutoring, we can do tutoring. But if you know you have a crazy schedule and you still want to achieve, say, your GED, the ASVAB, the Accuplacer, I have books, okay? And I have like some bundles, which are right here. But my individual books, I have my Algebra at Your Pace. So if you know you need some help with fractions, with decimals, I have, as I said, a video that is there. You just have to scan the QR code and I pop up and I break down concepts step by step. So all of these videos are here, okay? But I want to go back up to the top because here's another place that I would love for you guys to go to. In between the F and the N, in between the fin, you'll see my YT, okay? If you click on that YT, it will take you directly to my YT account. Go ahead and subscribe. It's all kinds of fun. Because what I do is I take all the recordings of my TikToks and I store them here. So if you need, okay, we both end up in tears with math. Oh no, Kayla, no more tears. No more tears. Okay, let me help you. Okay, so now you have step by step. Now this is the thing, these are all the other Can You Solve This in 1 Minute, all my morning series, but then there are some things I do individual stuff. Okay, so we were talking about Pythagorean theorem here, we were talking about distance, rate, and time here, and some of it was just like some general stuff. Okay, how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions. If that was a struggle, you can go there. Yep, I'm done. She's like, are you done? I'm like, yes. Yeah. All right. Because I try not to get on here for hours and hours. To me, I have things. Like, I have a business to run. I gotta tend to things, and plus I got tutoring and meetings as well. But this is where you can go to get all those things. Now, if you ever want to do any paid stuff, just all you have to do is go to your Stan store, and also go ahead and follow me. I'm almost at 50K. Woo! Look at that. You know, I've been on TikTok for a little over, well, no, almost a year and a half now. But again, take a look, because I have tons of resources that can help you as an individual, that can help children. I have tons of flashcards. I have a lot of practice cards that's involved as well. So go ahead, take a look through the Stan store. But I really would love for you guys to check on the practice, just to see where you're at. And then take a picture of it and send it to me on the TikTok DMs. Okay? And if you have any kind of questions, please. Yep, for the day, yes. Yeah, I don't go twice on Fridays anymore. I noticed. Too many death threats. It's crazy. I know. So I noticed that most of my death threats usually happen on Friday afternoon, so I'm just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Because I do my own statistics. But I do go twice on Saturdays, but not on Fridays. Okay? So go ahead, peruse through the Stan store. That's why I have it. So you can take a look, and if there's anything that you have in particular, maybe you're trying to get yourself ready for a test, and you're like, oh, I like how you teach, but I would love for you to be my tutor. Please message me. Tell me what test you're taking. Okay? And if you want, you can email me. Okay? So if you go through an email, you can go ahead and email me. Obviously, we're on TikTok, so you don't have to worry about the TikTok stand. But if you need any of that, that's going to be the link inside my profile. All right? All right, thank you. Okay? Awesome. That'll be perfect. Okay, a lot of the books that I have in the Stan store is actually the digital books. So you can print out whatever you need to print out. Whereas the books, right now, I'm working on trying to get books done somewhere else. But right now, it's currently on the A. I can't say the word because TikTok will kick me off or freeze everything I have. But if you do need any of the physical copies, you can go all the way down to the bottom of my Stan store, and this is where you can go to get your physical copies from the A. Okay? So, but if you're looking for practice tests, if you're looking for flashcards, if you're looking for what are most, if not all, of the formulas that's used in most of the standardized testing, I have everything on here. Okay? So go ahead and peruse yourself. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for your time and attention. And again, if you have any questions, I know there's probably tons of you that have been watching me for months, and you're just like, hey, if you really want to get that test over and done with, let's not let math be the reason why you don't pass. Let's not make math be that barrier that's stopping you for going after your career. Okay? Now you have someone that can help you. You're not alone with this. Okay? All right. Well, have an amazing day, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning at 7:45. If that means I have to get up at 6:30 to make sure that TikTok's working, I will do that. Okay? And you loved it? Oh, good. Refreshing. I love that. All right? Not a problem. Not a problem. So you do have someone, make sure you follow me here on TikTok, just in case something weird happens. But at least you'll have someone that can help you with your quest. Okay? Not a problem, Big Al. It's always refreshing to see you. All right. Bye now. Yep. See you tomorrow.